Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started this morning. Welcome to day 3 of the 5th Annual Envision Access Conference. This is the final day of our conference, and this is our final session. This session is titled Hear Their Stories. This morning, you're going to hear stories from 5 students representing 3 of the Ohio's 6 campuses. You're going to hear how they have their lived experiences with living, learning, and succeeding regardless of ability. These students are all amazing in their own ways, but what makes them most of it amazing is not that they succeeded with a disability. What makes them amazing is that all of these students have committed to being advocates and using their voice to help others. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Our first speaker today is, let me get this queued up so I won't mess up here. Our first speaker today is, I should tell you this. Most of these speakers have recorded their speeches. Several could not be here because they're working or they have other commitments. Some had expressed discomfort with speaking in public, and we gave them the option to have an alternate way to present. One of our speakers will be speaking live, and I'll introduce that student when we get to it. So first, you're going to hear from David Markham. David is a 2019 graduate of Ohio University with a Bachelor of Science in Communications and Public Advocacy with a focus on English and Psychology and an Associates in Arts and Humanities degree. She has been a member of the Ohio Statewide Independent Living Council since 2018. Since she was 17 years old, she has been active in the disability advocacy community. Some of her accomplishments include interning for the Open Door School located in Ironton, Ohio, and speaking on behalf of multiple statewide disability advocacy programs. Since graduation, David has devoted her time to promoting equity for people living with disabilities and has been a speaker at several statewide disability advocacy events throughout the years. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you so that you can hear David talk about, let me make sure I share this down, talk about herself and her advocacy.
My name is Dave Markham, and I'm a previous Ohio University Southern graduate. And today I would like to talk to you about some of my previous college experiences. I would say that I definitely had challenges in life. My challenges when I was a child was more of having to learn how to do things like walk and tie my shoes again. I also had problems swallowing. I had speech therapy. I had physical therapy. I had occupational therapy. I was in a wheelchair in the beginning, and then I graduated to a walker, and then a cane, and now I still have some difficulties walking, but they're not so bad that I feel like I need an assistive walking aid of some sort right now in this moment. Now, later on, I will most likely need an assistive walking aid. In college, I would say some of my challenges were mainly just learning how to take it slow, learning that I need certain things like a scribe and extra time on test and note takers and stuff like that. So, my biggest challenges during college, I would say that was definitely learning to take things slow and learning my limitations per se. After college, one of my biggest challenges is definitely thinking, am I doing enough? Am I fulfilling what I feel like is my purpose of helping other people with disabilities? Am I doing enough of that? Am I helping enough people? how can I help more people? How can I do what I feel is my goal? So I would feel like right now is probably the part of my life where I'm definitely facing those obstacles. The strategies that I used to get through college was definitely learning to give myself extra time and learning that I can't do everything as fast as other people, but sometimes I can do it with just as much accuracy as them and maybe even more at times. So it was definitely important for me to realize that I needed to give myself that extra time to study for that test or that extra time to do that paper, because some things just don't work as fast with me as it does others, you know? Some of my concerns before college, I would say, was definitely, can I do this? Can I take the extra time that I need to do this? How much extra time do I need? And really, with me, that was kind of more of a learn as I go. I would say that some of my most important teaching moments in life and just learning who I am and how I'm going to help people with disabilities was really what I learned in college. I would say that something that really helped me in college was just the scribe, the extra time. I couldn't have done it without that. Trace McKenzie, I couldn't have done it without her. I could have done it without my disability services. Those are so important to people with disabilities. And because my disability coordinator gave me the tools that I needed to graduate with my degree, I now feel that I can help so many more people with disabilities. The advice that I would give my younger self right now would definitely be patient. I know patience is so difficult for you, but great things are coming, and so many different people are going to be proud of you. You're going to be proud of yourself because you're going to help so many people, and you don't even know the future holds great things for you. Right now, I'm working full-time in guest services. I've given a lot of speeches in the past with statewide council and stuff like that since I've graduated at youth leadership forums for people with disabilities. You know, I've given speeches and stuff like that. So what I'm doing right now is I'm getting ready to apply for my second term of the Ohio Statewide Independent Living Council, and that is a 3-year term, and it's governor appointed, so I'm getting ready to send that into the governor's office. So I got appointed to that in 2018 when I was 24 years old. So I'm thinking hopefully I might get reappointed but it just being on the council for a 3-year term, it's such an unbelievable honor for a girl from a small town of Colgrove, Ohio. So I want to say thank you all so much for listening to some of my previous college experiences, and I am honored to be doing this. Thank you. Have a good night.
So you just heard from David. I didn't mention this, but David is a Southern graduate. We're really excited and proud of her. Next, I want you to meet Isaac Miller. Isaac is a senior studying journalism at Ohio University Athens campus. He has lived in Athens his entire life and graduated from a local high school called Federal Hawking in 2017. He is on the autism spectrum and receives some accommodations from student accessibility services. He states he was nervous and confused when he started college, but he has learned to advocate for himself in order to have the success he wants. He currently has a 3.5 GPA and is a student in one of the nation's most prestigious journalism schools. Isaac says college can be a big transition from high school, but students with disabilities can be successful if they advocate for themselves and learn about the services available to them. Aside from college, he has several interests. He enjoys running and tries to run most days. He is also an avid train enthusiast and volunteered at the Hocking Valley Scenic Railway, a local tourist railroad. He says, "I am honored to speak at this conference and look forward to sharing my story with all of you." So I'll invite you to hear the words of Isaac Miller.
Hello everyone, my name is Isaac Miller. I am a senior studying journalism on Ohio University's Athens campus, although I am currently learning remotely on account of the COVID-19 pandemic. I am on the autism spectrum, which provides several challenges for me as a student. Despite these challenges, I have learned how to deal with them in order to be successful in school. With that being said, I'd now like to share my story with you. Let's begin my story by going back to my high school days. I attended a small high school near Athens called Federal Hawking. I was a student athlete who ran cross country and track. Running gave me some happiness during my time in high school and helped me to set goals for myself and to work hard to achieve those goals. I finished last in almost every race during my freshman season of track, but hard work helped me to see vast improvement each season, and by the time I was a senior, I won the league in the 3,200 meter run, qualified for regionals, and scored almost 100 points for my team throughout the season. Despite finding satisfaction and success in running, I still struggled on the academic side of things. Many of my challenges were caused by my disability. One of my biggest challenges was concentrating in school. Throughout elementary, middle, and high school, I would frequently zone out in class and not listen. I had a hard time concentrating on assignments as well. I often did not perform well on my assignments or exams because of that problem. I was also plagued by poor handwriting and disorganization. Many of my teachers and peers expressed concern about how these issues would affect me when I got to college. I applied to Ohio University in late 2016 and was soon accepted. I started off as undecided because I did not know what I wanted to major in completely. I soon got acquainted with an accessibility coordinator from Ohio University's Student Accessibility Services, or SAS. For those of you who don't know what the SAS is, it works to provide equal opportunities for students with disabilities in order to help them succeed, although the students need to advocate for themselves as well. I will admit at that point, I still did not understand how much different college was going to be than high school. In the summer of 2017, just weeks after graduating from Federal Hawking, I attended my Bobcat student orientation where I scheduled my classes and learned more about the university. It was also around this time that I learned I would not have some of the luxuries that I had in high school. For example, the Individualized Education Program, or IEP, that I had during my time at Federal Hawking would completely disappear. I began to realize that I would need to make some changes in order to do well. I realized that I would need to work hard, to listen in class, and study well for my exams in college. Later that summer, the SAS introduced me to their coaching program. The program, now known as Autism Spectrum Peer Coaching Team, or ASPECT, consists of experienced students who meet regularly with students who have autism and work with them on skills such as self-advocacy, social skills, study, and organizational skills. I remained in the coaching program until my third year of college. I started college that fall and things took off in the right direction. I worked harder to focus in most of my classes and worked hard to study for my exams, which can have a big impact on your grade in class. I met with my accessibility coordinator and coach regularly throughout my first year and took advantage of the accommodations I applied for. Well, I think now might be a good time for me to talk about some of the accommodations I receive. Some of the accommodations I receive include double time on exams, taking exams in different locations, and assistance in finding note takers, although having a note taker is no excuse to not take your own notes. My second year of college came along and was a good follow-up to my first year. You might recall me saying earlier that I started college undecided. What I did my second year would help to change that. The major I had always leaned toward was journalism. I wrote for the school paper when I was in high school and discovered that I had a passion for writing. Since I had always leaned toward journalism, I had taken a few introductory journalism classes during my first 2 years of college. The spring of my second year, I began the process of applying to the EW Scripps School of Journalism. It was a lengthy process that took several weeks, but my aspect coach at the time helped me to stay motivated and to secure all the things that I needed. A few weeks after I completed the application process, I received an email that told me I had been accepted into the EW Scripps School of Journalism for the fall semester. I was thrilled, not only because I had finally found a major, but also because I was going to be a part of a prestigious program. Well, my third year of college, I began my journey as a Scripps student, and of course that brought new challenges. For one, I started taking upper-level journalism classes that focused on specific topics. Some of those classes provided much more work than classes I had taken before, and the professors had very high expectations on the assignments. Many of the journalism assignments that I do in upper-level classes have a lot of difficult guidelines that I have to meet and follow. It can be quite challenging at times. The SAS continued to help me succeed with the services it provided to me. I even made a news video for one of my classes about the services the SAS provides for students and about what it is like being a student with autism spectrum disorder. The video is on my YouTube channel and is called Ohio University Provides Services to Help Students on the Autism Spectrum. I would encourage all of you to check it out if you get the chance. Things would change drastically for me and everyone else that spring in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. I found myself learning remotely. Learning remotely provides many unique challenges, which I will detail here soon. Despite the sudden transition, I found success and finished the spring semester on the dean's list. Here are some of the challenges that me, and I am sure many other students, have faced while learning remotely. First off, I had to learn how to use platforms such as Zoom and Microsoft Teams for my online classes. That was honestly not a problem once I got the hang of it. I have also learned how to take OpenNote exams. I have taken a lot more OpenNote exams since the pandemic started, and OpenNote exams provide challenges of their own. Just because a test is OpenNote does not mean that you do not have to study for it. I needed to study in order to know where things were in my notes so I could get the exams done as quickly as possible and still do well on them. There has been a lot more reading with remote classes than in-person classes. It might just be the classes that I am taking at the time, but I have never had to read as much as what I do with remote classes. There are some weeks where I read well over 200 pages. Reading comprehension is another challenge that I have faced over the years. I have dealt with the intense amount of reading at my house by playing sound effects through my headphones while I read. That way I can block out other sounds in my house and still read. It is still extremely hard to concentrate, but the sound effects do help. Speaking of concentrating, concentration has also been an issue for me during remote learning. It can be hard to stay focused on things while you are at your house and there are a lot of distractions. One strategy I use is to make a schedule each night for the next day. The schedule helps to provide me with a roadmap of what I need to get done each day. While I don't always follow the schedule 100%, it does make a difference in helping me to stay organized. My 4th year of college has been completely remote, but I have used the strategies I talked about to help me succeed. Since I am behind on credits due to choosing my major late, I will not graduate this spring, but I hope to do so within the next year. If I could go back in time and give some advice to my high school self 4 years ago, I would tell him to pay better attention in class because he will need it in college. I still have the same struggles that I did when I was in high school, such as listening in class, handwriting, and organization, but I put much more effort into beating those problems now than what I did back then. I attribute much of my success to the SAS office. The services it provides are helpful if you know how to use them. If you or someone you know has a disability and is planning to attend OU, I would encourage you to get acquainted with the SAS and learn as much as you can about its services. I promise you, it will pay off. My other advice to anyone planning to attend college with a disability is to not let anyone get you down. You are the only one who can decide your success. If you put your mind to working hard in college, you will succeed. Thank you, and it was an honor speaking here today.
Thank you, Isaac. I can get out of here. Hold on. I still have a question. Awesome. Okay. So that was Isaac. Thank you, Isaac. Isaac has stated that he might be willing to take a couple of questions once we get through everyone. It just depends on how much time and how comfortable he is with speaking and answering your questions. Also, I see my director is on here, Christy Perez, and I think if you have questions specifically about the programming, the coaching, she may be willing to answer some questions. I put her on the spot, but I know she is on here, and maybe I can answer questions about SAS as well. So next, I want you guys to meet Hunter Schaefer. Hunter is a graduating senior in the Bachelor of Social Work program at the Southern Campus. Hunter is also a U.S. Army veteran who served in the U.S. Army Garrison Bavaria in Vilseck, Germany, and is a student worker at Ohio University Southern. Hunter recently started sharing his story about his personal experience about being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, his transition out of the Army, and the importance of seeking help, along with taking control of your quality of life. Hunter hopes to continue his educational journey in the Master of Social Work program at Ohio University this summer. And I'd like for you to meet Hunter Schaefer. Let me share my screen.
Hey, so my name is Hunter Dane Schaefer, and I am a student at Ohio University Southern. I was hoping that I could sit with you today and share a small portion of my story, and hopefully it helps some of those who might be facing like a period of uncertainty with going to college. I grew up in Louisa, Kentucky, a very small town, larger county, but very rural. Um, Lower socioeconomic status, divorced parents. Um, my mother was a wonderful mother. Love her to this day. She's my best friend. My father, however, he tried to be a provider, but looking back on it, he had a lot of addictions, mainly opioids. I had an addict for a brother who was an intravenous heroin user. Sadly, he passed away a couple years ago, along with my father and my stepmother, who also was an addict. Um, I can't say that my childhood was pretty, but it was better than most. And like many others, I have skeletons in my closet. Um, Coming from a divorced family, I have to say that it was very weird, to say the least. My maternal side of the family was very deeply religious. We attended church on Sundays. We believed in the Bible, and it was a very conservative upbringing, to say the least. While my paternal upbringing was quite different. Um, again, growing up with addicts, even though I was with my father on several odd weekends out of the year, generally every other weekends. It was quite different, to say the least. During my childhood, I was heavily bullied for being the different kid. I was rebellious, as I think many young kids and teenagers are. High school wasn't pretty for me by any means. I didn't like high school. Never did. I didn't like my hometown. I just wanted to leave. Um, I didn't actually think that I could do college. Didn't like school, which what high schooler really does like high school or school in general. You're in school for 12 years out of your life, if not longer, depending on if you've been held back for any other reason. Um, so upon graduation, I thought I would give college a shot. I hated it more than anything you can imagine. And I walked into a recruiter's office one day and I signed up for the Army. Um, I, let me think. I walked in on, I believe it was May 2nd to the office. I did a small PT exam. Um, I did horrible. By the way, I did horrible. I was not in shape. I didn't do anything but read books and play video games. I never played sports in high school, so I was not uh, as physically active and fit as my peers that joined as well. Um, and I want to say on May 13th, so 11 days later, I left. I went for Fort Benning, Georgia as an infantryman. I just signed in as an 11 X-ray. I walked in, they divided us in half and said, this side is going to be 11 Bravos, this side will be 11 Charlies. You will be infantryman, you'll be mortarman. And I was an infantryman. I spent 3 years and 16 weeks in the Army. I was stationed in Vilseck, Germany, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I loved the European lifestyle. I loved the ability to travel. I love the benefits that the military granted me and the sense of adventure. Also, it taught me about integrity. Taught me a lot about myself, what I was capable of, pushing past my limitations. I recommend it for anyone. Again, and I should say this beforehand, the military is not for everyone, but I do recommend looking into the military in general. It's the best adventure you could ever ask for, in my opinion. If you feel that your life doesn't have much of a purpose or you're stuck in a rut, consider it. Join something bigger than yourself. You will learn to put others before yourself. You will meet so many unique people from so many different backgrounds, creeds, socioeconomic statuses, genders, sexualities. It will make you a more rounded person and very open-minded to what a human being is capable of. I would go back in a heartbeat if I could. I loved it, every minute of it. And despite the bad days that you will have while you are in, you will have some bad and rough days. At the end of the day, you will look back and know that you spent that hard, rough day with not friends, but family and comrades. And I loved it. And I wish and hope that I get to see many of my friends again someday. Many of them are still in, some have gotten out. Some have had questionable life choices, as many veterans do. But I wish them well, and I hope that they are blessed and happy every day. And I miss them terribly. I was hurt during my period in the military. I was hurt during training, which is common. Less common now than it used to be, but common nonetheless. My back and my knees couldn't perform the task of an infantryman, and so I was medically separated. I wasn't able to renew my contract. Towards the end of this contract, I came home, and I was scared. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no idea if I could do anything. I was terrified. I'm after going from 18, living on my own, being a country away, I moved back in with my mother, and it was a humbling experience. If anybody's ever moved out as an adult and had to move back in with their parents, they'll understand. And it's far different, especially when you sign up for service. And your mom's telling you, "Why are you out so late?" it's a very different feeling. Just thinking about it just makes me laugh. But I didn't know what I could do. I didn't know if I'd be able to do anything. I didn't even consider college at first. And I was lost, so to speak. I didn't really have a clue. It wasn't until I kind of sat down and researched and talked to some friends about all the available military benefits. And then I discovered the GI Bill, which post 9/11 GI Bill is an absolute godsend. It will cover your tuition and fees, it will pay for your books, and it will pay you a monthly stipend. It is essentially a job to go back to school and better yourself. And at first, I'm not going to lie, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I went to school for the money. That's all I did. I just went to school for the money, and turns out that despite all the bullying over the years, I wasn't as dumb as I thought. I was very good at research. I was very good at studying, which makes for a decent student, so to speak. I changed my major 5 times, and I wish I was being anywhere near joking on that. I changed my major 5 different times. I had a degree, an associate's degree in applied science, and that sucked. I was going to do a business degree, but I hated it. Tried out physical therapy, some classes on that, didn't like it. Was going to do education, did not like it. Tried, what was that? I can't remember the other one. It might have been psychology. I don't know. I may have entertained that for a minute, and I didn't like that either. And it wasn't until I went to Ohio University and met Dr. McKenzie, who looked at me and told me after I worked with her and for her for a couple months that she said that I would make a great counselor and a great social worker, and she's seen potential in me. And I hadn't heard those words in a long time. I had nobody has ever looked at me and said that they had seen potential in me like she did. And it was a blessing, to say the least. And from then on, I switched my major to social work, and I fell in love with it ever since. And I think that was my biggest help, my biggest support was her and what she taught me and being a mentor. It was the best that I could have asked for. Especially coming out of the military, I didn't have the mentors like I did in the Army. And it just kind of so happened that I walked in her office one day and she found me, so to speak. And it was great. I kind of wish that I could look at my younger self with all those self-doubts that I had and say that there was nothing that I did the day before that I couldn't do today, because there was a lot of fear of the unknown, and the unknown is scary, but it's like stepping through a door, and just a surprise awaits around the corner. And it could be bad, it could be good, you don't know. But it's only at your greatest fear that you feel fully alive. And I will live by that till the day I die. And now I'm 8 weeks before I graduate with a bachelor's degree. I want to say it's less than 8 weeks now, which is surreal. I never thought I'd get here. And I have just applied to the graduate degree for Masters of Social Work. And I'm hoping to hear from them soon. And I hope I can apply for advanced standing and get a master's degree in a year from now. And I'm excited. I'm thoroughly excited. I have to admit, I have senioritis, of course. I mean, what student doesn't get senioritis? But I know as soon as I get that bachelor's degree in my hands, I'm just going to feel so happy. I don't know if I can explain it. And I'm sure many of you will get to this point, and I'm hoping all of you will get to this point at some day, being right around the corner of graduation and just knowing you're about to hold that degree in your hand and sit beside your friends, and you can all celebrate about your futures, your careers, where your lives are going to take you. It's great, and I hope the best for you, because someone hoped the best for me, and luckily it panned out. And I admit, one of the biggest challenges right now is COVID. I'm sure, as you can tell, that my wife's room is crazy. We have 2 kids, and separating school from work to family life is difficult. And I'm sure there's some of you out there that are dealing with that right now. And I hope you know that I understand. Being a parent is hard, but being a parent, a student, and a breadwinner during COVID while you're in quarantine is even harder. And I want you to know you're going to get through it. Many of you I have friends who have more kids than I do and they're in quarantine, and they're doing it. We're all going to do it together, and I'm so happy that you're here at Ohio University Southern, because here you're a family, and I'm proud to be a part of this family. And I hope that this helps you. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. I'm sorry. Thank you, Hunter. I got a little emotional. Wasn't expecting that. Hunter, as he said, he is a senior, and he is hoping to graduate. Well, he is graduating in about 8 weeks. So again, thank you. He could not be here because he's actually doing his practicum this day on Friday. So I think he was listening in until he couldn't listen in, but that's why he's not here. So next, I want you to meet Shay Madigan. Shay is a sophomore at Ohio University Chillicothe campus. She is majoring in middle child education, science, and social studies. This is only her second semester at Ohio University, but because of credits earned in high school, she is already a sophomore in teacher candidacy school. Shay has been diagnosed with ADHD, inattentive, ODD, anxiety, and an adjustment disorder. In high school, Shay was awarded for her academic achievements and participated in multiple extracurriculars. Shay has had a poem she wrote about her struggles with her own neurodiversity published in a local newspaper, and has been writing since she learned how to hold a pencil. She also started her own Etsy business this year and has made over 20 sales in less than 2 months. Shay wants to help erase the stigma around mental health and help find solutions for neurodiverse people instead of allowing them to just find shame. This session does not, okay, sorry, I just got carried away reading, but I want you to meet Shay. And Shay is our last recorded speech because she also has her practicum today, so she couldn't be here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Hi, my name is Shay, and I am many things, but a sophomore at Ohio University Chillicothe who is not neurotypical is why I'm here to talk to you today. I've been diagnosed with ADHD, inattentive, ODD, and an adjustment disorder with anxiety. Because of these chemical imbalances in my brain, I've had to find coping skills and strategies that many have not, which really baffles me when I think about it too much. Wait, you guys can do one task at a time. Just one, like you're... Okay. Whoa. You're not like constantly like subconsciously trying to mask your ADHD symptoms to seem normal or acceptable to society or anything. You just kind of do what you want. That's never heard of that before. The biggest struggles that I have faced with my neurodiversities are shame and neglect because I hide my neurodiversity so well. And I mean neglect in the sense that if you're doing really well in school, nobody asks why you're late to first period to every day and wants to help you get to the bottom of it. They just assume you're late every day and you're irresponsible, bad with time, which I have ADHD, I am bad with time. But they assume you don't care and that you're lazy. And I did care, and I cared a lot. But you sit on your floor doing some type of sensory coping mechanism, and then 10 minutes pass and you don't know because you were zoning out and hyper-focusing on whatever your brain was thinking about. So maybe a little less shame and a little more solution would have been a lot more helpful and beneficial to a 15-year-old girl. I felt myself deal with these negative feelings by learning more about ADHD and my other diagnoses and talking to people who also have them, because when you go to a small school or even just in school, you don't talk about it a lot, and it's really nice to be able to talk to people who struggle with the same things and figure out what helps them and what can help you. And I also have a diagnosis that a lot of people don't believe is real, and that's a huge struggle because can't help but I can't help sometimes, and I'm stubborn, but it's not a behavioral problem and it's not just me being stubborn. But I'm really grateful that I go to a college that recognizes that what's going on in my brain is real and that I need accommodations for it, and that's been really helpful. And that was one of my biggest worries about college, because I have a 504, not an IEP, and I was really worried about how that would transfer to college, but it transferred great and it's been really helpful. I'm also really grateful to have an advisor who helps me look at my DARs. If you go to OU, you know what that is, and helps me figure out what classes I still need to take and what's the best schedule and plan for me, and has made me keep myself accountable and reminds me that I need to be checking on my DARs too, and my advisor is the best, and I don't think I would have survived my first 2 semesters of college without her. I would have had no idea what to do. I was also really worried about making good impressions on professors and what they would think of me, and if they would understand my humor, if they would understand me and my thinking, but they've all been really, really great, and I'm really grateful for that. I think I would have a lot more advice for the adults in my life when I was younger than I would myself, because I think when you're a kid, it's really hard to understand what's going on, and then when your brain is different than everyone else's, it's even harder. But if I could tell myself anything, I would say, you're in an environment right now that wasn't built for you. The education system wasn't built by neurodiverse people, and it wasn't built with neurodiverse people in mind. And so I was in an environment that wasn't built for me and for how I needed to learn. And I was doing the best I could, and that was enough, and that is enough. I would also just give myself a really big hug, because there are a lot of other aspects of ADHD, which is usually called a learning disability, but there are a lot of aspects of it to it that aren't just in a learning environment. Today, for the first time in my life, I feel like I am where I'm supposed to be. I love my major so much, and I love all my professors, and I'm really excited to grow and become the educator that I needed when I was in school. Because I struggled a lot with a lot of different aspects of school, whether it was the social, whether it was the homework, whether it was the lessons. And if I can take what I've learned in my experiences and help the next little girl in my class who has ADHD, then I think that's what it's for, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I currently own my own jewelry business with multiple 5-star reviews, and I'm really proud of it, and I'm really grateful for everyone who supported me in that venture. I have 2 amazing friends who love me for me and who I don't have to try to mask my ADHD symptoms with. If anything, they embrace them and they just help me when I need it. And so does my boyfriend. He's great, and I didn't know that I could date somebody who thought my ADHD rambles about things I'm hyper-focusing on were cute, but people like that exist, and it's great. And I think we should all try to strive to find those people in our lives instead of the people we feel like we have to hide our symptoms around. I have a 3.457 GPA after my first semester, and I'm a sophomore in my second semester because of what I accomplished in high school, and I'm really proud of that. And so far, my education professors seem to agree with me that I'm in the major I'm supposed to be in, and that's just everything to me. I still struggle with my differences every day, but I've realized that despite what we're told our whole lives about overcoming our neurodiversity, that doesn't really exist. Neurodiversities are something you have to live with every day, and you have to figure out how to make life easier for you, because the things that help neurotypicals are not going to help you the same way typically. You have to figure out how you cope the best, what helps you cope, and you have to honestly have a lot more grit, because it's a lot more strenuous living in a world built for neurotypicals when you're not one. And we don't talk about that, and I think it's something that a lot of people don't want to talk about and don't think is true, but it 100% is. And my advice to anyone, and especially anyone hearing this who's just figuring out or just has got their first diagnosis, is that you can do anything you want in life. And I hope you start doing that instead of what people tell you you can't do, because your happiness is dependent on what you want to do, not what other people say you can't. And when you have a neurodiversity, life is full of people saying, this is gonna be way harder for you, or you probably won't be able to do this. But if I don't want to do what people say I won't be able to do, I shouldn't worry about it. Neither should you. Thank you so much, and I hope that you find your safe spaces, safe people, and what makes you feel safe, as I have and am still doing.
Thank you, Shay, and that was really entertaining, and a pleasure to finally meet you, see your face. Our last student is Jensen Cousins, and Jensen is actually here live, and I am going to have her speak for 2 minutes. Jensen is a social work graduate at Ohio University, graduate student at Ohio University's main campus. Jensen previously graduated from Ohio University Chillicothe and spent most of her post-secondary education as an advocate for multiple populations. She is the former president of Students Advocating for Gender Equality, SAGE, and the former vice president of the Social Work Student Association, SWSA, at the Chillicothe campus. One of her main goals in her career is to destigmatize the negative connotation around bipolar 2, as well as encourage others to speak up about their own experiences. I'd like you to meet Jensen Cousins.
Hi, thank you for introducing me, and thank you everyone for letting me be here. So, a little bit about me. When I was younger, I started to notice my diagnosis symptoms. I would feel random bursts of energy and mild depressive episodes. I brought it up to my dad once, and he said, all of the cousins are crazy. This comment, while probably meant to be lighthearted, stuck with me for 6 years until I had the courage to see a therapist. As I enrolled in my freshman year in college, I realized that I didn't feel normal, like other students seemed. I would have manic episodes, followed by a depressive episode, and not understand why I would suddenly fluctuate between the two moods. I would cry for no reason, have excessive spending, and stay up until 3 to 4 a.m. every night when I knew I had class at 9. My sophomore and junior year were spent pushing myself to the limit. I was in 2 plays back to back, taking a minimum of 17 to 18 credit hours a semester, and this was not sustainable. Finally, I took it upon my own hands to seek a therapist my senior year, and I was diagnosed with bipolar type 2. Suddenly, everything felt real. I wasn't just a crazy or weird person, but someone with a chronic, lifelong condition. Getting diagnosed with bipolar 2 gave me the courage to work towards my master's, and here we are. As for any possible challenges after college, I am concerned for energy capabilities afterwards as I join the workforce. I am someone, if any of you are familiar with spoon theory, I am someone who only has about 3 or 4 daily. So that's a major concern of mine, but I have a great psychologist, psychiatrist, and a large support group of people who can help me out. So what about before I started college? Before I started to attend college, I was interested in taking the easy route and did not apply to any other university than Ohio University Chillicothe, which at the time of applying was just a jump and a skip down the road for me. Unfortunately, my family moved, of course, so it was no longer an obvious choice for me, but I continued to go there. I was afraid of venturing into the world unprepared without the stability of my family, so I decided to stay home and attend the regional campus. Once I had decided where I was going to go, then came the barrage of questions. What's your major? What do you want to do after college? And so many more seemingly harmless questions that tore into me with new anxiety every single time. I quickly decided on my first major, animation, convinced myself that it was a good fit, and continued. I soon realized that it was no longer the major for me, and that's when I found my calling, social work. As a social work student in Ohio University's Master of Social Work program, my strategies have fluctuated during my academic career. When I was a freshman in college, before I had received my diagnosis, I was quite unmotivated to do anything. I would lay around after class, but I would turn in my homework. I was an average student. My GPA never higher than a 2.7 during those first years of undergrad. When I went into my junior year as an official social work major, I was determined to raise my GPA to a 3.0 so that I could get into the MSW program after graduation. So, one beneficial strategy that I started to use was setting alarms. I have a hard time focusing, as comes with a diagnosis, so setting alarms was a way to motivate myself when to start and when to have an assignment done. I was a bit of a perfectionist procrastinator, so I now strive for 85% or better. This rule has also helped me stop putting so much focus on starting and more on completing it. And the basic gist of that rule, it's actually called the 70% rule, where instead of focusing all of your energy on getting 100%, you strive for 70% or whatever average is applicable for you. So for the master's program, it's an 83, but I want to strive for at least an 85. So after I figured out my strategies, some of the Ohio University supports that have been a crucial part of not only my mental health, but my academic career have been advocating for myself and finding out how to gain accessibility services. This was a breath of fresh air when I was able to do this. Thank goodness for Heidi. I had a class with Heidi my freshman year, and she was so nice and so sweet, so I already felt comfortable reaching out to her when I felt it was my time to get these services. So receiving these accessibility accommodations really validated my experience. Being granted extra time, additional excused days, and having tangible proof of my disability was probably the most beneficial academic support that I had had in my undergraduate career, as well as my graduate one. So knowing what I do now, and knowing what I know about myself, my academic capabilities, and the structure of college expectations, I would tell my younger self that it is okay to advocate to have your needs met. If you feel like you are struggling, and I most definitely was in those first 2 years, no doubt about it, you need to let your professors know. I would also tell myself that there's beauty in chaos. You can't plan everything, no matter how hard you try. So roll with the punches and just take life head on. Life gets so much sweeter when you stop trying to hold yourself back from wonderful opportunities. So currently, I am in the advanced track for the Master of Social Work program at Ohio University. I graduate in May, and if none of you are aware, we are having in-person graduation, which is a breath of relief because after having my BSW graduation virtual, I didn't know if I was going to have it for my graduate, and out of the two, I'd much prefer it be for that one. So that's definitely motivating me to finish out strong. I am fortunate to have an internship with a stipend at the Chillicothe VA, and it is amazing. Having my diagnosis has helped me be more empathetic and has only helped me realize that I am meant to be a therapist. After graduation, my plans to provide therapy to children and adolescents here locally because there is a lack of services here in Southern Ohio. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for letting me talk here. And I originally said that I didn't want to take any questions because I'm not feeling well. I had the privilege of taking the second dose of the vaccine yesterday, but I'm feeling a bit better. So if any of you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jensen. So I'm going to open it up if anyone has questions for Jensen or Isaac or Christy about the coaching or me about accessibility services. The chat is open, or you can go ahead and unmute yourself and speak at this time. Someone said, great, Jensen.
Thank you.
So since I see no questions, I will let you know I did go ahead and put the end of session survey in the chat. Next, we're going to hear from the Director of Student Accessibility Services at Ohio University, Christy Perez.
Thanks, Dr. McKenzie, and thank you to all of our students that have shared today. I have not had the pleasure of meeting you all personally, but it's just really encouraging, and I loved hearing your stories, and I just appreciate you sharing with us all. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what our office does, in case some of you may not know. So Student Accessibility Services at Ohio University is, I think, kind of unique compared to some other schools where we actually coordinate across all of Ohio University's campuses. So we are centrally located on our main campus in Athens, but we have coordinators that serve all of our regional campuses, and we work together as one unified office. We work with students with disabilities who need accommodations, and whether they received accommodations in high school or prior to coming to Ohio University, we can work with them once they arrive. So I know some of our students had shared that they were on IEPs or 504 plans in high school, where others may not have been diagnosed with a disability or may not need accommodations until they get to college. But we are here to help support any student with a disability at any point in their college career. One thing that I wanted to point out is many of our students have shared their really encouraging and empowering stories with us today. We do work with students to make sure that they have accommodations and to make sure that they have equal access to the educational learning environment, but their success is fully their own. I think it was Isaac had mentioned that he attributes a lot of his success to our office, and that makes me really proud of our staff, but the success of students belongs to them. They are all required and expected to meet the same expectations as any other student at Ohio University, any other student in their program. And so the work that they put in and the effort that they put in is really what contributes to their success. So it makes me really proud of our students and our staff, like I said, but I want to make sure that they know, and that all of you here know that that their success is fully on them, and they should be really proud of that as well. But some other things that we do in addition to providing accommodations, we determine accommodations for students, but we also act as an intermediary between students and their instructors to make sure that their accommodations are being implemented. And while we do provide that intermediary support, we really encourage self-advocacy for students. We encourage them to work with their instructors directly, but then come back to us if they have questions or concerns about that. That's a skill that I think will be really supportive of them beyond Ohio University in the workforce, or if they're going elsewhere to graduate school. It's just a really important skill that we try to help foster and develop while they're with us. So that is something that is really important. I know Isaac had mentioned his participation in the Aspect coaching program, and Teresa had mentioned that briefly as well. And those of you who were attending the conference earlier this week, I know you had heard from Heidi about our Gateway to Success program. So we do offer some additional supports to help transition students from high school to college, or even before they get here, to let them know what the resources are in the college environment. But it's really nice to see that even students that have gone through some of those transitional services, how they've been really successful and are thriving several years later. We also help connect students to other resources and develop a network of support. For some of them, that includes people like instructors, advisors, other student support services at the university, but we can also help get them connected to community resources as well that might be helpful for them beyond their time at the university. We're always happy to answer questions or collaborate on things. So if anyone has questions, we're happy to answer those today, or you can also feel free to reach out to us and we'd be happy to answer them the best that we can. Or like I said, we love to collaborate on projects and ideas as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you, Christy. I'm getting this technology thing. So I want to invite Robert Pleasant to also speak on behalf of the Council of Diversity and Inclusion, since the conference falls under that umbrella. So, and hold on, there you go. Robert.
Well, first, I want to thank everyone for participating in this year's conference. The idea of going virtual was a little daunting at first, but I think that it's been a great experience and something I think that we can use in the future. I also want to give kudos to Teresa, Dr. McKenzie, and for all the hard work she put into this conference. I think the week has been an awesome opportunity to learn from each other, to learn about experiences. Hearing from our students is really and truly inspiring to all of us. So this has been a great experience, a great opportunity. So I thank everyone for their support and attending the conference throughout the week. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And I want to thank the student speakers once again. You guys are amazing. And again, not because of a disability that you bring with you when you come to our campuses, but because of what you choose to do with your journey and with your degree. As you heard, all of them are advocates for some group or several groups. So kudos to you guys. And again, thank you for having the courage and to speak today and share your story with all of us. We all need to hear these stories sometimes. I think we forget as humans about other humans. And with this last year where we've been in quarantine and we only see the humans in our environment, I think we needed to hear these stories. So again, thank you, students. And I just want to tell you guys, thank you for attending these 3 days. We split it up to kind of take the pressure off of a one-day event for people. Give you a little breathing space between sessions. Next year, our conference is scheduled for Friday, March 4th. It's already scheduled. And also we are already open and accepting proposals for next year's conference. So yay, go out there and submit some proposals. If you have questions, we'll hang out for a few minutes. Otherwise, thank you and have a good rest of your day and enjoy your weekend.